regular meeting of the AP School Board. Let's stand for the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And we'll go right over to Jim.
All right,
Superintendent's report.
thank you. A little bit of different setup. As you can see, the carpet is brand new, so we'll hopefully like that. And we're doing some cabling, some issues. So we're using this projector, so for this part at least, I have my back sort of turned to you, but a brief report, the new school lunch management system is underway. We'll be opening that up this year. New cafeteria system, cloud-based. It's gonna give us a lot of efficiencies, as it says. Some stuff with the menu development, some nutritional options, some planning. So it provides us with what we think is going to be a better product for our parents. Also is gonna help our nurses for medicine type administration. One question that's come up is the current balances. They are going to be forwarded to the new system, but you are going to need a new account for future deposits. So information will be out there about that. We want to make sure our community knew about the new school lunch management system that is going to be implemented this fall. Also, the hiring update. It's been a busy summer. We keep saying every time we think we're done, we're not. Something has happened. But led by Kim's work there, we've really filled all our vacancies with some really highly qualified and experienced staff. As you can see, 11 teachers, as of now, 5 teaching assistants, new psychologists, guidance counselor. We've had some big positions open. We just actually recorded the latest episode of the Every Student Every Day podcast, which is the new hires. We have 3 of them on. Really some great folks with diverse backgrounds, coming to us with a lot of experience. We said it during all the interviews, Matt and I do the final round. We do very well here in terms of attracting candidates, and to go through the process with committees and lessons that we do in front of students, and then we get to that final round. They're pretty vetted, great reference checks, and we're really excited about the people that we have coming in. Again, some very challenging positions to find. We are still looking to fill several vacancies on the non-instructional side, and we've been advertising about that, so hopefully we'll be able to get that taken care of as we get closer to school, but overall very positive hiring cycle. And then the final thing, we just want to keep the community updated regarding the firefighters exemption, looking to bring that back up more in public in September. I had it out, tabled it for a while, we have a timeline, we have a plan, so Carrie will be talking us a little bit more through that so that we can decide to go forward with that or not prior to the next budget cycle. And that is the board report. We have a short but positive celebrations of success video as well. So a short report, we are going to bring back to you Tony Armland, who's our owner from Saratoga Project Manager in September, to talk about the capital project. And as you probably noticed, there's quite a bit of work going on. Not a good year, considering it was literally the wettest July on record to do roof work, but we've been able to keep somewhat of a timeline. So hopefully things are going to be in shape. The high school definitely will move to the middle school soon, and hoping things will be dry for a few weeks here. We can kind of make up some time. But they've been working on weekends, literally, long shifts on the weekends, because that's when some of the dry weather's been. But overall, the report we've gotten from Tony, we meet every couple of weeks, carry on, very, very positive in terms of costs, in terms of contractors, So we're very excited about the work that's being done and everyone needs it work so far. So with that, concludes the report.
Thanks. So we are into the public comment section, limited to topics on the agenda. I have no blue sheets. So we can move on to the approval of minutes, and just as a note, tonight we are approving, at the last meeting we tabled the June 12th meeting because half of the quorum was not present. That was not sworn in at that meeting. So we have 3 minutes to approve now, 3 sets. The reorganization meeting and regular meeting for July 5th and the June 12th. So can I get a motion, Megan? And can I get a second, Jackie? Any discussion? Adam?
I'm gonna abstain because I wasn't at the July meeting. Nobody take it personally.
And I have to abstain from the June meeting because I also wasn't here, but you still have enough people for each.
Well, I read
Oh,
So,
we can't separate them?
well, so that's actually, so that was my next question, is that if we have abstainers, we can have one abstainer each, so should we separate them? Okay,
So I watched the recording from the reorg meeting and so I have no problem voting on it because I watched the video.
okay.
So, I mean, that was not,
That's right.
Well, we can.
that was time that I spent
That's
watching the
right.
video.
Right, no,
So-
the issue was just June, because I can't, because I obviously wasn't there before. We
Well,
still
so-
have quorum, so it's-
Okay, if everybody's okay, we can split that out. Linda, okay, so, can I get a motion to approve the meeting minutes from June 12th, 2023? June 12th.
June 12th.
You motion to.
Motion to approve, sorry.
Motion to approve,
Megan?
June 12th.
June 2nd, June 12th. Can I get a second? On the motion, okay. Megan, Jackie, all those in favor? Okay, so we have 4 on June 12th. July 5th, can I do the reorg and the general together? So should both meetings July 5th, can I get a motion to approve? Jess and Megan, all those in favor? Okay, 4 in favor, we're good to go. Thank you, guys. Oh, we might have to do that. Can I get a motion to approve our consent agenda for business, personnel, and special education? Megan, seconded by Jess. Any discussion? Just a lot in there.
Just a comment. So 6L, there's a $100 donation from Mr. Caswell for car repairs. It seems like that's such a win-win for our technical students to help support the community and vice versa. So that's great. We should do that all day long.
Thanks, Em. That was gonna be my, second on that. So thank you to Robert Caswell for $100 towards the high school auto repair program. If there's no other commentary, all those in favor? That's unanimous. Action items we have, so 9A. Can I get, I'm still on. Can I get a motion to approve the memorandum of understanding with the Niagara, the Niagara Institute to provide Algonquin Middle School with dynamic mindfulness program? Adam, seconded by Megan. Any discussion?
Sorry. I was really pleased to see that we got a grant that's going to fund this program. Pleased that we're able to offer it to the students with no cost to the district.
Yeah, and I just do want to think that this comes up for items like this with some regularity, that staff, Carrie, you've done this kind of work too, of looking for outside funding to make this stuff happen, and it's above and beyond, so thanks. All right, anybody else? All those in favor? Okay, that's unanimous. We are now, we'll table 9B. The NISBA conference, we don't have a voting delegate as of yet. We'll put that on the next meeting and hopefully have it done by then. 9C, can I get a motion to approve the agreement by between Averill Park Central School District and Start Children's Center Inc. As per the agreement that we have been. Adam, first, second, Megan, discussion. And we've discussed the START Center's interaction with our students at previous meetings, so it's a good thing for the kids that need extra attention here. All those in favor? Okay, that's unanimous. Okay, 9D. Yeah. Can I get a motion to approve the revised agreement between Averill Park Central School District and CSD regarding consulting services, specifically mentoring? Adam and Megan, and discussion? Anybody? I'm just going to broken record this if nobody else has anything to say. Mentoring is the way to go. It's something that I'm almost always in support of. So this is good. Okay, all those in favor? Good on the mentoring. That's unanimous. And 9F. This is fun. Can I get a? Oh, did I skip E? Oh, nice catch. Sorry. Can I get a motion to approve the agreement between Averill Park Central School District and Neuropsychological Services, PLLC? Megan first. Oh, Jackie, beat you to it second. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor? And fine, and F. Can I get a motion to approve the request for the Averill Park High School cross-country team to the following event? Friday, September 8th and Saturday, September 9th, the Briarwood Classic Invitational in Belmont Plateau, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Jackie and Adam seconds. Any discussion?
I did have a question. I was curious about the advance notice on this one, because we usually get these kind of requests like way in advance, and this is one that's like just under the wire, I feel like, for planning. In terms of getting it out there, was this one that they weren't aware of previously?
I'm not sure, to be honest.
Would it be a factor of the summer, just not being around?
Just an observation that if something catastrophic had happened, like what happens sometimes in the summer, like we get a flooded building or whatever, that, these kids could have missed out, so. And then my usual, make sure there's enough chaperones, please comment. Thank you.
And my only comment is to wish those cross-country kids luck around like the wind. All those in favor? Unanimous. Okay, good to go. Item 10, we have 2 policy items on the agenda. This is a second reading. So we'll start with motion to approve, to accept policy 5406, that's student mental health and well-being. So Jess is first, and I get a second. Megan, discussion on policy 5406. This is a new policy. Go ahead, Jess.
I just want to say how happy I am that we're instituting a policy like this and that everything in there was great to read. That's something that we're taking seriously and focusing on mental health and well-being, and I think that's great.
Yeah, that was a really good collaborative process. From, a lot of times we get very fully formed things, and this was a chance to meet it. So do I need a separate motion to adopt the policy?
So I would make a motion to waive any additional readings and adopt the policy as written. Specifically, policy 5406.
All right, and then Jackie seconds that. So all those in favor of adopting policy 5406, that's unanimous. All right, policy 8140, can I get a motion to approve to accept that? Megan first, and Jess as a second. And again, 8140 is the unsafe school transfer choice. In our case, it only applies at the elementary school level because that's the only one. Oh, yeah. I see, I don't know. Okay. Did you have any other questions about that?
Yeah, actually, It just made me, there was so much reading on this. I did a little bit for the past 4 days, so I'm just going from my notes. Can somebody explain to me just sort of the spirit of this policy?
Well, it's a regulation. It's based on a regulation,
That,
right?
I did inquire with NISBA on this one because it thankfully does not apply to our school district. And they basically said this is a required policy for all school districts. So as Sam said, it really would only apply if there was a problem at an elementary school, because for middle and high school, we don't have any options for kids to
Okay.
transfer. So this is purely like a compliance policy.
I mean, my understanding is if you were in a bigger school district and you were in a school that was deemed unsafe for you as a student, then
Yeah.
the district would be
you know,
required.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
I was like,
And so in our case, it's not. Again, it's only really applicable at the elementary level, but we have to have it. So, would anybody like to motion to waive any further readings and adopt it as written? Are you comfortable with that?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, Megan and Jess, second, and all those in favor of adopting policy, and let me make sure I get this right, 8140. Okay, all those in favor? Unanimous. All right. Jim, I'm just reading this as is, I'm not like reading off all the numbers for safety team.
No, you can just say approve of the safety team.
I practice a little bit, but then Okay. Item 11, can I get a motion to approve our safety team members representatives for the 23-24 school year? Adam and Megan, any discussion? All those in favor? Okay, that's unanimous. We'll just keep going down the list. Can I get a motion to approve our district-wide safety plan for the 23-24 school year? Megan and Jess, all those in favor? Oh, sorry, discussion. Anybody? Okay, Megan.
Just want to point out how grateful I am for such a detailed and thorough plan. I have my 3 children here in the district. Well, one just graduated, but I have my other 2 boys still here, and I never have to be worried about their safety. So I'm pleased for that.
And I will say it is a lot of work that goes into, and a lot of thought that goes into putting these together, so that is very much appreciated. Okay, on number 12, district-wide safety plan, all those in favor? Unanimous. Okay, 13, can I get a motion to approve the building level safety plans for the 23-24, Megan and Adam? Any discussion? Same stuff applies, all those in favor? That's unanimous. Can I get a motion to approve on number 14, professional development plan for the 23-24 school year? Adam and Megan. Any discussion?
Just wanted to quickly just thank Kate Dorgan for her work. Really, on items 11, 12, 13, and 14 are all something she's added a great deal of detail and has made much more specific. You can appreciate the constant updates she's taken on. So just wanted to acknowledge her work on that. And we have an expanded safety team. And we want to thank the 2 people who have joined us, including Lieutenant Lombardi. It's the first time we've had a state trooper on the team. So we're excited. He's always worked with us. In our barracks, and going to witness now back. It's been a valuable resource, and we're excited that he will be to join the team. So.
Thanks, Jim.
Just one thing, in terms of professional development, I think it's important to recognize that we have, a wonderful staff of teachers, we have wonderful administrators, but you're constantly looking for ways to improve yourselves and grow. And I think it's important to note that that's a commitment level that a lot of, places don't have, so.
All those in favor? And we approve this, we're at the professional development. So
Yes,
that's unanimous. Yep. Okay. 15, can I get a motion to approve the special education district plan for the 23-24 school year? Adam and Megan, any discussion? Again, just appreciation for all the detail that goes into the drafting and implementing these plans. It's a lot. All those in favor? Unanimous? Okay, next up, can I get a motion to approve the guidance plan for the 23-24 school year? Guidance plan. Meg and Adam, any discussion? All those in favor? Again, unanimous. Good job, guys. Did your homework?
Yes, we did.
Everybody else is as good. Okay, can I get a motion to approve code of conduct for the 23-24 school year? Megan first, Jackie seconds. Any discussion on the code of conduct?
I know that the code of conduct goes home, or like it's advised that the code of conduct goes home the beginning of each school year, and we usually have to sign something sending it back that we, comply, or that we acknowledge that we, reviewed it or whatnot. Does that happen at the staff level and at the, do they get reiterations? I just know because in my professional, I get a lot of notifications that I have to reread and certify this New York State policy and sign off that I read it for the 75,000th time, but you got to do it every 3 months or whatever. So, does that happen in this realm?
No, I don't think we provide it directly to staff every year. They know about it, obviously, it's on our website, it's talked about, but I don't think we don't do anything like that where we say, hey, here's the code of conduct you read. And there's a bunch of other stuff we do through Right to Know that we have to do kind of similar to that, the safety stuff and we got a whole list of state mandates we have to do with the code of conduct is not one of them.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Okay, that's unanimous on the code of conduct. Okay, we're almost there. Now I get a motion to approve the MTSS RTI plan for 23-24. I need a motion. First, Megan, second, Jess. Discussion. Do you want to?
My only request would be for the benefit of the public to please document what MTSS RTI stands for.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
MTSS is multi-tiered systems of support. RTI is response to intervention.
And then a clarification on what that means for people.
Sure, those are intervention services that we provide for our students' academic and really MTSS is behavioral as well. So it's really encompassing the whole child and the intervention supports they need to be successful as a learner.
Thank you. Thanks for getting it. Oh, the acronyms. Just my kryptonite, the acronyms. All those in favor of approving the MTSS RTI. Okay, that's unanimous and plans done. Resolutions. Okay. Can I have a motion to approve sections 554 and 556 of the real property tax law that allow the Board of Education to delegate to an authorized district official the power to exercise. The power to exercise the board to perform the subject duties relating to the correction of errors on tax rolls and the refund or credits of taxes where such tax was attributable to a clerical error or unlawful entry, where such corrections or refunds amount to no more than $10,000. And whereas the adoption of this resolution delegating such power to the Assistant Superintendent for Business will result in increased efficiency and more prompt administration of such duties. So I need a motion as Megan is first, Adam second. Any discussion on this resolution? All those in favor? Okay. seems a lot easier. I need a motion to approve the resolution to establish the tax warrant for the 23-24 school year in the amount of $34,765,729, and to authorize the tax collector to give notice and begin collection of taxes on September 1, 2023, in accordance with section 1322 of the real property tax law as per attached. Megan first, Jackie seconds. Any discussion? The only discussion I have is gratitude to the taxpayers for supporting this school district. You know, it is paying us off. You know, we're doing well in that money. I think is well spent. All those in favor? That's unanimous. Okay. And 19C, could I get a motion to approve the resolution? Jim, am I saying this right? So we're starting as be it resolved that the Board of Education hereby authorizes the law firm of Shaw, Carlson, May and Lambert LP to serve as legal counsel to render legal services for such services provided at the hourly rate of $220 pursuant to the provisions of an engagement letter dated July 31, 2023, as presented to the board. So Megan first, Adam seconds. Any discussion? All those in favor? All right. You guys can stop hearing my voice for a little while. As charming as it is.
All right, yes, so we have now the annual State of the District presentation. So we are excited to bring you this. It's a thing that we started doing to do a look back for the previous year. So everything that you're going to see is July 1 to June 30 for the previous year. With a few slides kind of showing you what's coming down the line. However, we'll spend most of our time going with the past year. In an effort to break it up a little bit, Matt, Carrie, and Kim are going to do some of the presentation as well. So we won't have it for the whole time. So our year in review, starting off with our goals, which you're very familiar with, right? You see them up there, they've been consistent. Goals 1 and 2 have been the same since I've been here. Goal 3 is a relatively new one, the digital fluency one. This is year 3 of that. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. But I very much appreciate the board's support in keeping these consistent. It allows us to continue the work and not hopefully overextend or have issues with initiative fatigue or any of those type of things, but to stay focused on what we think is the really important work that we're doing. All of it aimed at our mission, which is to meet the needs of and create opportunities for every student, every day, something that we try to use as the basis for our decisions. Mission is sort of the short term, where the vision is a little bit longer. Our long-term vision is to create passionate learners who contribute positively to the community and the world. So we kind of have that as a larger umbrella. When we went through this process, we also developed core values of responsibility, community growth, and respect. So I'd like to make sure we begin this presentation with those things because we do believe they are important and we do try to go back to them. This slide is an oldie but a goldie. It's been in most of the presentations. It was something we talked a lot about when I first got here, because I think we were a lot on the left. We were doing a lot of things that were positive, but they were perhaps a little more random than they should have been. So we've spent a lot of time trying to focus our acts of improvement so that we're all facing in the same direction. And in that circle in the middle, it talks about vision and mission and those important type of things. So this is something that we still go back to because we want to make sure as our resources become more and more limited that we are aligned with what we are trying to do, which goes back again to the board's consistency in those goals, which makes things much better. We're going to talk in depth now about the goals from this past year, and I wanted to kind of preset these next few slides. So number one, this is a process that we view as continually growing, being reframed. We feel like we've gotten much, much better as we've gone through this goal setting process and really now talking about the objectives, the SMART objectives of being measurable, attainable, and all those things. We have purposely talked in our conversations from district to building leadership to our leadership teams that we wanted the goals to be aspirational in nature, meaning we wanted people to feel comfortable and confident in setting higher targets and higher numbers and striving to attain them, even if we fall short, as opposed to setting lower targets that we knew we could kind of get to easily, sort of, set the bar so low you can crawl over it type of thing. We really didn't want that. And we heard from the training this summer specific comments about that of teams saying, we feel like we can put those higher numbers out there. We feel like it's something to attain to the aspirational level. And there's no real penalty for not getting there, but we want to keep striving to get there to try and continue to get better. So that's important when you look at these numbers. I think what also is really important, as we've talked through this a lot, is our baseline data that we had going into this year was not exactly reliable, right? And that was because of a few things. Number one, the changes in education, right? There's been state testing changes, there are all sorts of changes that have happened. And then of course there's the pandemic, right? So we had these numbers, we didn't pull them out of thin air, but at the same time we knew they were not necessarily rock solid because we had baseline data, but it was sort of questionable as we've gone through this process. And then third, I think you're going to hear this come up a lot, and it's on your agenda for Thursday's retreat. We certainly, and we being not just Averill Park, but education in general, I think, underestimated the impact of COVID, right? The learning loss, but also the behavior part that came out of that, and students just not really knowing how to behave in school, right? Those kindergarten, first grade, second grade students who had never experienced school like we were used to. Kids moving from elementary to middle to high school, all those transitions, all those years where we spend a lot of time with students and their behaviors. And we saw that this year really jump out. So the impact of COVID really played into all of our learning targets this year. So if you look at the first one, goal one at the high school, really striving here to get 85% of students to pass their classes. You can see fell short of that a little bit from the 85%, maintained at 83. So not a gain in terms of that percentage, in terms of the number of students who are percentage students who are getting to pass all the classes at the end of the year. But we feel like given the challenges that were there because those things I just mentioned, especially the COVID impact, was certainly a success on that end. At the middle school, the goal there was a 25% decrease in the number of students failing one or more core classes. So again, we're looking to go from 8 to 6. You can see that we went from 8 to 8. But again, this graph shows like the high school one. If you look at those middle numbers, getting to 8, I think if you ask the folks at the middle school, just like the folks at the high school, I think they would view that as a success because we came off the pandemic and we saw some of the things that were happening. Our students were struggling. So while it wasn't a meeting of the goal of 8 to 6, I think we feel pretty comfortable and pleased with that result given all the things around us. And then the same thing kind of happened here on the elementary side. This one dealt with improving reading fluency. I think as you look back at that, and Matt and I literally talked about that as recently as this morning, the number of going from 60 to 67 was probably a pretty big stretch, right? Percentage-wise, that was a huge increase. So slowly looking at that jump, no, we did not meet the goal of going from 60 to 67. But you can see if you look really to the darker blue at the right, there's where we ended up for grades 1 through 5 cumulative. To get to a 65% there, didn't necessarily meet the goal per se, but again, being aspirational and shooting for a pretty high target, we're happy with that proficiency number. Goal number 2, dealing with engagement in the community for our students and their school community. The goal there was to increase by 5%, getting to 70. And you can see the high school got really close, at 65 to 69. So again, officially did not meet the goal, but I think a 4% increase given some of the constraints that we had and some of the challenges we faced is a pretty good number. And you can see again that the increase from where we were in November.
Middle school, they had 85% of students answering positive on their responses. This was a little bit surprising, right? So you're looking at a fall survey and a spring survey, and there's actually a decrease. And I'm going to go quickly to the elementary one, where you see the same type of pattern, where they're looking for 90% of students identify with the results. And we went down actually from 89 to, I believe it's an 88. So we've talked a lot at the elementary and middle school about what happened there. And again, I think kind of a little foreshadowing before you retreat. We're seeing a change in the student that's coming to us, right? Some of those abilities to connect and some of the experiences that they're coming to us with as they've made some of these transitions. So that's something we're certainly diving deeper into. We want that number to go up, obviously, as the year goes on. We want more kids to feel like they have an adult they can reach out to, or teacher or other adult here, same type of thing, can be counted on to help no matter what. The middle school, we want that number to go up, obviously, so concerned that it went down. We think there's some outside factors and influences that kind of contributed to that, but it's something certainly on our radar that we're looking to improve. And then goal number 3, I think, is certainly the most difficult to categorize. So as you look at this, we talked about digital fluency being new. This past year was year 2 of this goal. And I think what's been going on in the district is positive. We know the work is being done in terms of making this goal a reality. It is much harder to write language around an objective that measures it. So is the work being done? We believe so. Do we do a great job in writing objectives? Probably not. I think we struggled a little bit with that. And even in talking to the building folks in the last week or two especially, I think there's a very strong belief that that struggle in writing and categorizing and coming up with words to put around what we're doing is going to lead to a much better product. I think you're going to see better SMART objectives in this area in particular as we go forward, as we're learning how to measure and how to really figure out what we're doing and that we're doing it well. Again, I keep going back to it, but the consistency by the board to adopt the same goals is so important because it enables us to keep the goals the same and then really fine tune the objectives. And there's a level below this, don't forget, of action steps. That's really where the rubber meets the road of what's going on in the trenches in the classroom. So all that alignment, again, going back to the arrows, very important. We feel like this one, we're going to see some much more definition around and hopefully categorize a little better as we go forward, and we'll see some positive steps there. The Board of Education, you got your own slide up there. So in terms of your accomplishments and highlights from the past year, we did a retreat last summer, as I've referenced a few times already. You have another one coming up in a couple days. The continued implementation of board docs, we feel is something very important. It's something that we wanted to do for a long time, but it's led to greater transparency, easier searching. I think it's a better tool for our community and for us internally as well. The work that the policy committee is doing is really monumental, and I think it moves at sort of a snail's pace. But we are now done from the 0,000s to the 5,000s. It's been a long road, but that's 6 out of the 10 that are done. Something that hadn't been done even when I started, I think we figured 10 or 15 years, I don't remember, whatever it was, since the policy update had been done. So we knew this was going to take a while, but the work of the policy committee and the board as a whole, it's slow but steady. We are getting to a point where our policies are actually updated. And then because we bought into that service with NISBA, they're continually being updated with those quarterly updates. And that's really important. Appreciate Kim staying on top of that so that when we're done, we're not done and outdated already, but we're done and still current. So a lot of really good work there. And then of course the board really hopped into the advocacy work. Megan did a ton, and you can see the picture there of when we met with Scott. And that's something we want to continue to grow as we move forward because we know it's not going to get any easier. On the communication side, I'll stack Brian Radowitz against any communication specialist out there, especially considering we have him for 4 days a week. I jokingly said to the new hires on the podcast today, we pay for 4 days a week and we use him for 7 days a week because he's literally available at any moment and has done some really good work. We received those national awards. That was involving AP magazine that has gone out. It's been very well received internally and of course critically. The APHS profile, which was updated, and the absolutely enjoyable and fantastic podcast, which the host just does a wonderful job leading that charge. But that was one of our 3-year awards as well. So thanks to Brian for his work there. Our social media growth, I think, is through the roof. And we used to show this to the board every month. We stopped doing it because it kind of got a little redundant. If you look at our social media outreach, our posts, our likes, all that stuff that's out there on Instagram, Facebook, we are off the charts compared to any district, including bigger districts, right? So the fact that we're able to do that, and it's all Brian, and I get a culture now of people getting that information to him getting it out, and really sharing our successes with our community, which we think is important. Look at that, the podcast's on there again. That's weird. So we surpassed 50 episodes of the podcast. We're currently at 62 and counting. I think it might be 63 after today, but that's all right. And then the fall community newsletter, which was the first time we had done that. So now we're doing 2 full mailings to the community. Previous to that, it was just a budget newsletter. We wanted to give the community something that everyone got the second time, and we're preparing that second one now. Moving forward. Safety, led really here by Kate Dorgan, as I mentioned earlier, who's doing great work. We conducted this year an audit with Utica National, our insurance company, and that focus was on safety, both in and out of our facilities. Waiting a report still, but we really took kind of a comprehensive look at safety in the district from an outside perspective. The trainings have focused on 2 really, really key areas: threat assessment, so providing our faculty with the tools and our administration with the tools to be able to assess properly when students come to them in crisis, and reunification, which is something we'll literally be talking about tomorrow morning again. If God forbid there's an incident, we know that a key part of that is reunification. We do everything we can proactively to prevent it, to be prepared for it, and then we have to do everything we can afterwards to bring students and families back together. It's certainly something we're spending a lot of time on, and we'll continue to do so, and training folks to do that. Our continuing outreach to law enforcement, I mentioned earlier, just Lieutenant Lombardi jumping on, helping us out. He's been a resource for us really since the beginning, and of course the work that Deputy Nichols has done. I'm not sure where we'd be without him at this point in terms of his role with our students and our community. It's fantastic, and it's been huge for us. Our Safer Schools Together, which provides us, it's a product that we bought into through our BOCES, that namely brings us a worrisome online behavior report. It's a report that we get through a company, it's a vendor that actually has an algorithm that goes through and does this work behind the scenes, looking at posts that are done, and we get a report of students who are distributing some form of behavior that is considered to be worrisome for a variety of reasons. If there's anything urgent, we get it right away. If it's not urgent, we get it monthly, and we use that with our administrators and our counseling staff to check in with kids. The West End Lake Parent Pickup was a big one. We had to drive through there, and that was a nice partnership with the town to try and really look at what we could do differently, read a dismissal there. But that was a safety concern for anyone who's seen, as you're coming down 43, that line of traffic that was piling up and cars parked. It was not safe for our buses, wasn't safe for our parents, wasn't safe for us. It was safe for nobody. So we're really glad we were able to do that. And then the plan to rekey all our buildings has been an initiative that will be ready to go in September, really thanks to Aaron and his crew. But we have rekeyed, or will by that have rekeyed all the buildings in the district, simplifying the number of keys, making sure that any key that was out there that maybe should have been out there now doesn't work, right? So that needed to be done. But also, more importantly, it vastly minimizes the number of keys that are needed to get into a building or room, and the number of people who have those keys. This really came directly from some of the stuff that's happened, unfortunately, in some of the mass shooter events. The ability for law enforcement to clear the building quickly really depends on them having keys to get into the rooms. And we weren't where we should have been. Again, we don't like to talk about things, that's why we haven't talked about it. But come September 1, we will be exactly where we need to be in all of our buildings. Again, just another thing that we wanted to make sure that we're doing proactively, so we're prepared for anything, of course, that we don't want to happen. Community relations, we spent a lot of time on this. Community education, we thank Julie and Nancy who have really taken this on. We were not being profitable there, which led to kind of reimagining community education, driver's ed, pickleball, some big things that have come out. The basketball court at Post and Kill was a nice partnership with the town there that's helped us out. Our community engagement team, which has continued to work and has met, their focus this year is going to be on the next bullet point up there, the warrior nickname and imagery, where we've done some work with that, with the community, making sure we're communicating a huge change, obviously. And we have a plan, which is on the agenda later, to talk through a little bit in terms of how we see that going forward. The PFOA issue, we've tried to stay very transparent with that, working with the town, the county, and the state, and providing information from test results are posted on the water to making sure we're communicating updates from us. And then the Start Center partnership, as we know we're facing limited resources, this has been a really good partnership. It started last year with the trauma-based counseling. That's what they are their specialty is in. They're able to share resources there, so we get them at a discounted price, but some really expert counseling. That's moving this year to a second pilot program, which is our family intervention one. That's what we approved earlier today. And again, really thankful for our partnership with the folks at the Start Center. Kevin Maloney, who runs it, has been very much a valuable partner for us. His time with us goes way back to when he interned at Algonquin when I was there. So we have a connection with him over a long period of time. On the athletic sides, very proud of our 23 of our 24 varsity teams, which are named Scholar Athlete teams. Our boys golf won the Section 2 Class B championship. That was the first sectional title in program history. Our girls had another wonderful season. As you can see there with the Section 2 and the regional championship. We've continued our work on the Title IX survey and making sure that we are administering a survey there, understanding what our needs are, trying to address those needs as best we can. And then thanks to our building grounds folks, the renovation of the JV softball field, which is now actually a playable field, kind of goes at the end of the in-house work we've done. Here's the baseball field at Algonquin. Some of the projects they've taken on, we know about the ones inside the building, the guidance suite at Post and Kill, for example, the room upstairs, special education room here at the high school, but they've done a lot of work outside too to make the facility, the campus, much more supportive of our student athletes. So that's my first part, but I'm going to come back later. For now, I'm going to turn it over to Kim, who's going to talk through some of the highlights from the past year in human resources.
Okay, so we did some work, or we're constantly doing work in labor relations. So for this year, we were able to settle the APAA contract. We were able to do an extension with APTA with the continued, productive negotiations, actually starting soon. Cabinet contracts have been settled. We had an event for APTA labor relations training, which I think was pretty successful, and the goal was to just help, work on having productive relationships between our administrators and, the APTA membership. We now have a special ed labor relations team, again, to try to productively problem solve, have conversations about issues that may come up in the special ed world. For the first time since 2019, we had our Welcome Back Warrior Tailgate Party, where we had 200 participants. So that was a nice event. And we revamped our retiree celebration a little bit this year. And, I think we really got good feedback on it. It was, well-received changes that we made. We had administrators speaking on behalf of their retirees, and, it was just a really nice event to send off our folks. This is the first year that we've had our EAP in place, the first full year. We've seen increased awareness, certainly, of the program. So the way it works is there's a website that people can register for. In addition to phone numbers they can call, if they need assistance. So I've been working to try to increase the awareness. So periodically, usually before a break, I will send an email out. Hey, don't forget we have an EAP, check it out. And over the year, we went from 69 people that had registered, so now we're up to 110 employees that have registered for an account. And that just enables people to go in. There's a lot of resources in the website, trainings and, webinars they can look at, if they, health information about your pets. I mean, there's just a lot of resources available to people, self-service. And then, of course, if they are looking for counseling services, there's ways to get it, connect through the website or make a phone call, if they need to do that. We checked with our rep. Our numbers are actually pretty good relative to a lot of other school districts or industries. She told us we ended the year at 27.71% utilization rate, which doesn't sound very high, but she said that the average nationwide is 5.2% utilization. She said the average for school districts, or the average for all industries is 16% for this particular company. And she said school groups range anywhere from 5 to 25%. So, I think we're doing pretty well. It's a great tool for us as administrators, because if I have an employee that's coming to me in crisis, and the administrators have been great about this too, the first thing we do is say, here's a number, this is a resource. If you're struggling, I hope you'll call. We can't force them. The other opportunity with this program is we do also have an administrative referral program. So if we do have employees that were concerned, we can actually send them, to talk to folks. And we've had to do that a few times, and I think it's been helpful, in those situations. So, we're excited about it. I'm going to keep working to try to increase the awareness and hopefully get more people signing up. I've gotten feedback though. Employees will email, and I always share them with the cabinet. Employees will email and say, I've used this and I found it to be really great. So the people that are using it, I think, are finding a lot of value with it. So we're happy about that. The other thing we did this year, which was fun, we instituted an Employee of the Month recognition program. And the way this worked, it was really peer driven. So every month I would send out an email, do you have a coworker you want to recognize? And there was an online form, so people would submit, their colleagues and great things that were going on. And we ended up with 23 people being recognized over the 10 months, because there were some points where we recognized the whole building and grounds department because they, go above and beyond. And it was a nice way to recognize those folks that, just do what they need to do every day, and their colleagues wanted to show appreciation. I mean, we had, our custodian at Post and Kill, I think that was our last one? And the whole staff was just sending in these recognitions and these nice things to say about him, because they wanted him recognized for his hard work. And so it's fun. It's a nice way to kind of, show our appreciation for people, and for colleagues to show their appreciation of their colleagues. So we're looking to continue it again, for this year. And then for last year, we did hire a total of 18 new teachers, new instructional staff. Again, really great candidates coming with experience. These people have been doing really innovative things here. So we had a really good year. And I think it's a testament to, first of all, the district reputation. And I think, when Matt, and it's been 4 years, when we came on board, Matt instituted a demo lesson, which was new. I think I instituted a more consistent hiring process. So as each year goes on, we're seeing that kind of more and more, just getting better and better. The demo lessons have been really key to see what people can do in front of kids, because sometimes you might interview really great, but maybe you're not so great in front of kids, or you might not interview so great, but you're awesome in front of kids. So it's been a really good opportunity to see what our new staff can do. And again, we'll just continue to work on making the process, improving the process as we go. I think that's it.
Now on to Matt. Thanks, Jim. So, I mean, everything that's up here, I guess I first want to start by saying it's a it's really the result of a tremendously hardworking staff. There's a lot of great things that are happening in our classrooms, and it requires a dedicated teaching staff to get there. So we've been on a really great trajectory with what we're doing in the classroom, and this is just a summary of some of the amazing things that we were able to accomplish this past year. The biggest thing that happened in K-5 was many years in the making. We finally were able to implement a new, I guess it's probably better to say a new ELA program, K-5, than curriculum, because we certainly do more than just the program in our ELA classrooms, but this was a long-awaited process that we got to a point where we chose a program, actually 2 different programs, one for K2 and one for 3-5, that had a huge impact in the classroom. The teachers were very enthusiastic to roll it out. The kids responded very well to it. We're seeing some really high-level work, high-level discussions about literature taking place, particularly at the upper levels. Big change from what we had in the past when we were using the state modules. Kids are reading a lot more and doing a lot more deeper discussions and writing around their literature. So a really positive move for us as a district to adopt these new programs. Common forward assessments. In our classrooms, we do a lot of assessing. Assessments happen every day from within teachers and students. They can have them hand a slip of paper as they walk out the door. They can ask a question and see how many kids got it right. Common forward assessments are when you take those results and you talk about it across more than one classroom. So we really push the idea of teachers sharing a common assessment and then talking about results. Not as much to say, oh, your kids aren't doing as well as mine. Why? But more to share best practices, to find out what works and what doesn't work. And when you talk about common data, you get to that level. So this is really a way for our teachers to work more collaboratively around building an assessment and then discussing those results to see what works in our classroom. So every level instituted some level of CFAs this past year. Our PLC implementation is something we've been really steadfast at for the last 3 years. We told the teachers when we rolled this out in 2021 that this was going to be the thing on the plate, and that was it. That was going to be our focus. And it's really been that. We have done professional development continuously over the last 3 years. We've brought trainers in the summertime and in the school year to work with our teacher leaders and our entire faculty. And this has remained the focus. And we're planning to continue that into this year as well, as you'll hear in the future. But we have really stuck to the fact that this is what we think will have the greatest potential impact on student learning. And it's really about teachers working together to look at what they're teaching, whether students understand what they're teaching, and what they do if they aren't understanding it. And again, it's a consistent conversation that happens every month amongst all of our content area and grade level teams. You've heard about our renewal process. You saw presentations in the spring from 2 of our departments. This is something that is really still in its infancy. We feel really strongly about the idea of teachers getting together vertically, so having K-12 teachers working together on content. Some departments need a little more prodding than others, and we're hoping that in time this becomes the culture of what we do, that teachers will look forward to this every 4 years, to having an opportunity to meet together to talk about what's working and how we can make sure we're aligned from the earliest learners in kindergarten to our hardest learners in 12th grade. Our Every Student Every Day plan was our second iteration of the strategic plan that Dr. Franchini developed when he first came on board. He worked with a team of people. That was a 5-year plan that in essence expired. We had done a lot of things in that plan and decided to give it a refresh. So the Every Student Every Day plan that we presented to you early last year is something that is really that long-term planning. It's the 5-year vision. You talked about vision versus mission. We see the Every Student Every Day as really being a supporting document for that vision. And lastly, remote instruction for emergency days. We thought these were behind us. We found out this year that when you have snow emergencies and don't have snow days, that you quickly pivot back to remote instruction. So we were able to do this relatively on the fly because of the experience we had during COVID. We felt prepared, we felt capable, and we actually had very productive days on those emergency days that allowed us to count them as school days when they normally would have impacted vacations, things like that. So we were happy to take advantage of it. Social emotional skills, we continue doing a lot of work in this area. You've heard about it in presentations. Every building participated in Warrior Wednesdays. That was a monthly event. So we had students working with social emotional skill work on the same day across K-12, which was really cool to see. We kind of started the year before, but this was really the first full year of this work with our Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee, really getting to understanding what makes up our student body, what are some of the challenges we face, ensuring that every student has an equitable experience in their instruction, and this work is going to continue with a much greater focus this year. We've got some really great ideas of where we want to see this committee go, but last year was kind of capturing a lot of that background. We delivered a school climate and culture survey. You saw those results back in, I believe it was March or April. Every student, staff member, and parent had an opportunity to give us information on how we're doing in terms of climate and culture. And that's something, again, we look to continue going forward. We had middle school and high school student focus groups, again, focusing on that equity and inclusion work that we've been doing with that committee. We wanted to make sure that we were getting that student voice in what we did and not just looking at data and capturing a lot of adult information. Dr. Ricciuti talked about the START Center trauma. We also are expanding that to family, but we also did an expansion of our mental health clinic, which has been taking place in the middle school, that will also allow us to provide those services at our high school as well, so students can get it right within the high school. They don't have to go to the middle school to get those services. So we're expanding our partnerships, but also expanding opportunities for our students to get the help they need. You approved earlier today a professional development plan that is, as Megan said, very important to us. This is the key to success, is making sure the teachers, the staff, teachers, non-instructional staff, administrators are empowered. They have the ability to learn what they need to do to be an expert at their craft. So PD is very near and dear to our heart. One of the things we attempted to do this year with great success was, as part of our opening day, we only get 4 superintendent's conference days for the school year. 2 of them are at the beginning of the year, and oftentimes they get absorbed with a lot of required trainings that have to be done for the state, opening day faculty meetings, work to set up your classroom. We didn't want to miss the opportunity for PD as well, so we embedded some mini PD sessions, allowed teachers to choose what they wanted to learn about, and we're going to expand that this year for our opening day as well. So it was a very successful experiment that we're going to build upon. We're looking at our non-instructional staff, not just on that day, but other superintendent's conference days, making sure that they got the training they need to be successful in their roles. It's a suggestion that was brought back to us that we wanted to make sure we took seriously and really followed through with, so they were given those opportunities. We had 25 district-created in-service opportunities. Those are opportunities typically after school on a variety of topics for teachers to take. We completed 455 formal classroom observations. That's a big number, and that requires a lot of people to do that. I think it's really important to understand that this is more than just one person. Although Kate Dorgan organizes everything she does, she takes on roughly about 175 of those observations just herself, and then the rest of the administrative team picks up the slack with that. And these are all required observations to meet the New York State EPPR requirement. So a lot of work goes into meeting that requirement. It takes a lot of time, a lot of people being out of their normal jobs for the day to go into classrooms to make sure we're meeting that. We had a mentoring program for administrators. Some of our newer administrators were given the opportunity to work with someone from CASA, a retired administrator, to support them in their new roles. And every administrator was trained in TCIS, therapeutic crisis intervention services, I believe. A lot of de-escalation work, as Dr. Franchi said, we're dealing with a lot of new behaviors in our buildings. So this allowed our administrators to get some more strategies, tactics to help de-escalate certain situations. It's a multi-day training that they were required to participate in. So it took some time, but it was worth it for us to make sure that they received that training. Special education, continued work around social emotional skills with the addition of sensory pathways. You can see an example in that picture. These are located in all 3 elementary schools, and it's really an opportunity for a student who needs to get out of the situation, kind of focus on their own mental health, their own well-being. They could go through these pathways. It's a lot of movement, a lot of kind of having to think about how you would work through a certain, navigate a certain part of the course, things like that. So it's almost kind of a distraction for students when they're in a situation that they're struggling with. So we now have those in all 3 buildings.
Matt, how can you reference that picture but not that one?
I didn't know what that was. It was amazing that showed up. That was probably Questar training. I had no idea I was
Thank you,
being photographed.
for putting that.
Creation of 612 classroom, you've heard a lot about that in budget presentations leading up to this, but we had a location in Post and Kill. It was a new classroom from us. It brought challenges, but also great opportunities for students that normally we would not be able to host here at Averill Park, but have to send out to Questar. So this would allowed us to keep them here and be engaged in a school climate, which is really, really important to their own growth. We had parent information nights. This came as a result of work we did with State Ed. Both Dr. Camille Harrison and Liz Malone were able to present information about special ed to parents at multiple points throughout the year. And technology, 2 big points with technology. Computer-based testing is something that the state is pushing all schools to do. We're all going to be mandated to do it. Actually, this coming year, this 23-24 school year is the first year that we have to do it in 2 grades, and then we have to add 2 more grades the year after that, 2 more grades the year after that. So in 3 years, our entire district has to be computer-based testing. We decided to kind of rip off the Band-Aid last year, and for our ELA test, did it for grades 3 through 8. So all students did it. It takes a lot of coordination to make sure that the devices are working, they're charged, that the teachers know how to deliver those instructions. They've never done it before. That the students are comfortable on the platform for a relatively high stakes assessment. So a lot of training went into getting them to practice what the platform looked like. So a lot of work was done for that. It was really, really successful. Had 0 hiccups, which was awesome. We'll be looking to do math this year for at least probably 4 grades, maybe all 6. And lastly, we have coming very, very soon a website redesign. We worked with Brian Radowitz to kind of lay out what we were looking for with a new website. The platform our website currently is not supported anymore. So we decided to outsource that to BOCES, and they've been working on design, grabbing in all the information from our website to populate it, and hopefully this will be rolled out before the start of the school year.
All right. Now we'll let Carrie do the business side, if you don't mind.
Sure. All right, so first we'll talk about budget. The budget and both propositions passed by a good margin. Budget and capital reserve fund at 70%. I'd like to see all of them above 70% next year, but I think it speaks to the community support of at least a fiscal representation of what we're trying to do with our programs here in the district. So I was happy with that turnout. Right now, we're in the middle of our $28 million capital project, and the first year, phase 1, is pretty much complete. Within all the buildings in the school, security door hardware, the rest of the intruder lock sets were installed. That project is complete and done. So the paperwork's been filed for that. That was done by June 30th. The bus garage roof restoration and door replacement, that started last summer, but because of weather and supply chain issues, wasn't able to be finished. So that work is actually finishing this summer, and it's just about done. It's at the point of like punch list items. So that's wrapping up and should be completely done relatively soon. Our $100,000 capital outlay project was also finished in June. We've mentioned before the renovation of the 1211 special education classroom, and at the 2nd floor of the high school here. That was a classroom that had cabinetry and equipment, and just the layout was severely outdated and no longer didn't work instructionally for the teachers. So we did revamp that room for them. Our maintenance staff did a lot of the work in there, which helped us save some money. So then we did have the money left over to do the installation of the fencing at the baseball and softball fields at the high school. So we were able to accomplish both of those things with the funds. And you can see here is the picture of that 1211 classroom as we were installing it. So we're going to continue with those enhancements, improvements to the $100,000 project. This year, we worked with the facilities committee, and we came up with a multi-year plan of tailoring both the money that we have in the capital project and the $100,000 project to make security enhancements over the next couple of years. So the first of that is slated to begin with the 23-24 money. So we're going to continue to kind of use those projects and take off some items within the district that need to be done. One of the other initiatives we had this year was transitioning the food service program management to BOCES. At the end of last year, we had a resignation with our food service director, so it was an opportunity to look at the BOCES service, and we decided to move forward with it. Working with the BOCES gives us access to things that we didn't necessarily have here on staff. They have a dietitian, so they help with the menu planning. They have the back office staff that can help with the direct certifications and some of the paperwork that we need to do. It's also aidable, so we do get money back in the following year. So this year was the first year, which we didn't get the aid, but now next year we're going to start having that aid, which will help with the financials of that program as well. So that'll be starting up. And overall, it went very smoothly doing that transition. In transportation, the stop arm cameras were installed, and as a plus to that initiative is that we got all new cameras on our buses, on both the inside and the outside of the buses. And the camera system that was installed is actually better than the camera systems that we had by ourselves. So the coverage that's inside the buses and outside the buses is much better. It's also a lot easier to pull videos, for administrators need to see them. So that was a plus. It also has GPS in it. So that, not even just from the stop arm piece of it, ticketing and slowing down people, which hopefully just getting the word out in the community is helping with that. But we also did get an upgrade in our camera systems. Our DOT inspection rate was over 97%. I think this really speaks to the mechanics that we have over there in the bus garage. And really, the higher the rate, the less downtime your buses have. So they're not pulling our buses off the road because they're being kept in such good shape by our mechanics. They converted to a new routing system, so that's all been rolled over and the training done. And then the electric vehicle charging prep, Mark Primo, our transportation supervisor, and myself, through the spring, sat in a series of workshops that were held by NYSEG. And really the point of it was to come up with a roadmap on how we can electrify our fleet. So we did a fleet assessment looking at what vehicles we have and try to come up, with a framework in terms of how we'll start converting those to electric. We also looked at the facility, where we did a facility assessment in terms of where might we want to put the charging stations, what is our current electrical capacity at our location, like that we're responsible for, and how much more do we need there if we're going to start rolling out these electric vehicle charging stations. But then they also did an assessment of the NYSEG part of the electrical system coming before it got to our building and whether the capacity is there also. So we did this whole roadmap, they were calling it, in terms of developing a plan for the electric vehicles. So the next step now is taking that roadmap and maybe coming up with more definitive action steps and how we're going to try to achieve it. So we have a good baseline of set now in terms of converting the fleet, because as of now, the deadlines have not changed. Food service, so we started snack back up at the high school, Post and Kill and Miller Hill. So that's back up and running. And at both the secondary level and the elementary levels, we tried to get the students more involved in the program. Did food tasting days at the high school in Algonquin with potential vendors. And then this is also another plus with using BOCES, because they help arrange that with the vendors to come in to do this with our students. And at the elementary school, they did try it Tuesday. So really we're trying to get students involved, and maybe they can support our program if they're, get involved in our cafeteria program if they want to buy our food. And we're trying to make sure that, if there's stuff on the menus that they want, if they like these foods, we'll try to incorporate them into the menus to try to get them involved with that. We also, last year, or 2 years ago, when all of the school lunches were free for all of our students, we had got a lot of reimbursements back from the federal and state government, which showed we needed to spend some of that money down. So we've used this year to purchase new equipment for our kitchens, and we also did new furniture for each of our cafeterias. So there's going to be new furniture, for the students to help give them maybe a nicer experience, and then also we upgraded the equipment in the kitchens for the cooks to maybe make their jobs a little bit easier too. So we bought quite a bit of equipment and furniture this year using those funds. Buildings and grounds, they're always a busy unit. Dr. Franchitti alluded to earlier about the skills and the talent that they have about doing a lot of projects in-house, which saves us from having to contract out. This year, some of the things that they tackled was renovating the PAFA 5 and 6 instructional space over at Algonquin. It was putting up new bottle fillers at Miller Hill and Algonquin also. After we had the power outage, that resulted in some repairs that needed to be done, particularly with pumps for our heating units. So they were able to manage that whole process and get us back up and running in terms of our heat for everybody to return. This year we also focused on the greenhouse and the auto tech. That's on this side of the building, right outside here actually. When you drive by, part of the problem, we have great programs there with the auto tech and the greenhouse, but there's not a lot of storage for the auto tech program. So a lot of it is in an outside fencing unit. So, but as you drive by, what we try to do is hide it so people wouldn't see all the storage all the items that they had out there that they use for their program. So then the fence that was already up, we installed a screen. So as you drive by, you can't no longer see the mowers and all of the equipment that they have there that they utilize. And across the parking lot from that, there is also a standalone tire, chain link tire storage, and also some dumpster area need to be cleaned up. So we straightened all that up and got it looking much nicer when people drive to our building, and also particularly when they're back to the athletic fields. After the Algonquin water system finally got back up online after the installation of the water filtration system, so that's up and running smoothly. The Algonquin weight room floor needed to be replaced, so we had that done. And then we installed the strobe light signage on all the buildings. When we installed the strobe lights, people who work in the buildings know if it's flashing, they know what that means. But if you have community net members, might pull up to the building, see the flashing the light, and not know what it means. So we put the sign there so they know when it's flashing, we're locked down, move to a safe location, just so everybody who pulls up to the buildings would be aware of what that meant when the light's flashing.
All right. So we're about a third of the way done, so. Only a few more slides. So we'll talk a little about what's going on, or what happened, in the buildings. I kind of move through these quickly for you. At Miller Hill Sand Lake, Student Council hosting numerous events. And you're gonna see a theme here of returning to in-person events, Science Fair, Martin Luther King Day of Service, those type of things, all kind of coming back at Miller Hill. At Posting Hill, return of the PES Pride school-wide assemblies, the grade 2 pod area, which is a sensory learning reading space, which was added to the building. And thanks to APEF, the foundation really, once again, helping us out with that grant. And that's really to support independence in learning at the school. So that's kind of cool. We hit upon the 612 classroom that's located at Posting Hill. So there was certainly a special ed component to that, but also a building component to that in terms of successes. At West Sand Lake, they initiated a new PBIS, which is a positive behavior system that's used to improve behavior, called the West Sand Lake Way. Back to the foundation again, the facility therapy dog program. The grant went through that. They're actually in the implementation process there now. And then the character education and student opportunities, a lot of things returning again and happening real positive. School-wide assemblies, the Warrior Wednesdays that Matt mentioned, school-wide guest presentations, all those type of things. At the middle school, they implemented the Common Lit program, which is a research-based ELA program. Really did some cool work on the field trip to New York City. It's going to be a new annual trip, includes Federal Hall, the 9/11 Memorial, the 9/11 Museum, One World Trade. There's a lot of cool things they did, and they took a lot of time. They went down separately without the kids and mapped everything out, made sure they knew what they were doing, felt comfortable with it, and then brought the kids down. Really attention to detail there that we appreciated as we embarked on something very new. We hit upon the dynamic mindfulness program. They received that grant, and now we can fully implement that as we move forward. Some collaborative group work, some comment that were based on common expectations. Again, going to the changing student and kind of teaching kids how to be students, right, as they transition. Some of that was lost during the pandemic, so really kind of resetting common expectations for students. And then continuing the work on social awareness topics. Principal focus groups, building-wide focus groups of the community, and some PBIS work there as well. At the high school, implementation of the second year of Operation Graduation. They began in March. 12 extremely, kind of at-risk seniors who participated in the program. 10 to 12 were successful, so it was 10 more students who graduated on time. The graduation rate at the high school, 94%, something that obviously we're very proud of there. Again, given all the challenges, it's great work by the faculty and administration to make that happen. Improving or increasing our student engagement opportunities. As we know, that's one of our goals, to make sure students are engaged. The Warrior Wellness Assemblies and E-Hall Pass, which is in its second year, really making an impact on the management and student movement through the hallways, really making things run more efficiently and we think positively. And then just real quickly, we wanted to show you a little bit of a glimpse of what's coming up. not looking to dive into any of these topics tonight. But on the teaching and learning side, and you're gonna hear a lot about this, we have Matt scheduled for the September presentation. So you get a little teaching and learning and a little Tony Harmlin on the capital project. But he's gonna talk about what we're doing with that school climate and culture survey. So we implemented it year one, or excuse me, gave it year one, looking to build upon that for year two. Some really cool stuff going on with the pilot program on furniture in terms of creating new spaces and how we're utilizing those spaces. Continuing the PLC model, digital portfolios at the high school really ties into goal number 3 to talk about the digital fluency part. And then some, we think, can hope for innovative work regarding grading and reporting. Again, much more to come from that in September from Matt. On the business side, the capital project keeps rolling along. Kind of hit upon already some of the roof issues due to the rain, but we're getting there, as well as the other work as you walk around the building. A lot of work being done throughout the district, and that'll continue as that project moves through. The building condition survey, which is mandated and required every 5 years, will be done this year, and that is really the launching off point for the next capital project. If we're doing things right, we should have a capital project going all the time, right? You start the process of the building condition survey, which is done by our architect to see what are your needs. You start going through a committee process to develop a plan, get a proposal, referendum out, start to work on it. And we want those to be going continuously and not have these long droughts of not having capital projects. Something we're trying to move away from. Very challenging, obviously, given the financial situation we've had past, present, future, but something we really want to see how we can do there. And then the challenging budget forecast. We know the numbers don't look so good from what we've seen, so we got to keep that in the back of our mind, always a constant concern. The Warrior renaming is a big one, all right? So we'll be going through that process this year. Literally, it's the next thing on the agenda, and you'll be hearing more about that as we go forward. So that is the very short and concise presentation on the state of the district. I know it's a long one. I think last year it was like an hour. I don't know how long this one was. We usually make Matt watch it a second time and give us a report, but it was long. But we really wanted to highlight a lot of the positive things going on throughout the district by our folks here. We are very fortunate with our community, their support, and with our employees and the work they do. And we figure once a year we should kind of look at that comprehensively and share that with the board and the public. And that's it.
I do have a question, but first I want to highlight a couple of the high points for me. The Employee Assistance Program, I think is such a great resource for our employees, and correct me, but that's available to every employee of the district, correct?
You know, every employee, every child of an employee, 26 and younger, and then also every household member. So even if the employee lives with a roommate, the roommate could call. So it's pretty robust as far as support.
I think that's fantastic. Obviously, we care very much about the people that work for the district at all levels, and so having that program available sends the message that we value them, you know, not just when things are going great, but when they're having times of crisis. I think it's amazing. And the same for the professional development programs. Like I said, in my professional career, I have worked places that did not care to invest in the development of their employees, and usually didn't go well. So I am glad that we are doing that, because it also sends the message that we care about their professional development and we want to help them be more whole as individuals. The safety and security updates, thank you. And then also the creative ideas that you guys are coming up with to manage expenses. I'm very pleased to see all of the good hires and the talented folks that we're bringing into the district, but I can't help but think about the very challenging future budget years that we have coming up. And so I appreciate things like, you know, transitioning the food service to BOCES, where we can then get aid back on those things. Like, that creative way of thinking is really what we need in the district, and I appreciate it. The questions that I had centered around the goals that we had that you covered at the beginning of the presentation. I know you have frequent interactions with other district superintendents, and obviously their district goals are not going to be exactly the same as ours, but when it comes to things like passing classes and measurable comparisons, how are they feeling? Are they seeing similar challenges to what we're seeing in the behavioral aspect? Are they seeing, the same type of, hurdles and obstacles that we're having to getting to where we would like to be?
Absolutely. It's something that is not just local, but regional or statewide or throughout. It is, and you're going to see a little bit of that again on the retreat. We put together some very brief slides to kind of show that it is a widespread issue. Absolutely. If you think back, I kind of say this, there's a survey done by NISCUS every year that identifies priorities and concerns. Prior to the pandemic, for the first time, SEL, social emotional stuff, was the top priority of superintendents. I want to say it was either the year before or the 2 years before. That was prior to the pandemic, where for the first time it wasn't budgeted, it wasn't finances, but the number one identified priority was that. Then we had a pandemic. So it has gotten exponentially worse and more challenging. Our data reflects that. Our behavior referrals are through the roof at the middle school and high school. There's no two ways about that, but it's everywhere. We have a lot of conversations with colleagues. I think we're actually doing pretty well, all things considered, and compared to some of our other colleagues and districts around. Everyone is struggling with it. So it's a constant challenge that we need to work through with professional development to make sure we're preparing the people in the buildings to be able to handle those challenges, and also have to provide the support for students who are in crisis and families, which gets into it starts in a partnership, which is a family intervention partnership. Stuff like expanding the mental health clinic to the high school, so there's a site here. Those students were getting service, but it was at the middle school. So again, that was something predates me, that expansion with the county health services in the building. So you're eliminating those barriers for people, families and kids to access services. So it's something that's been on the front burner, and it's just getting more and more so.
I just want to riff off of that because there were a couple of things in there that had to do with reaching out with the EAP, building the development into the superintendent's day, like smoothing the path for all these resources to happen, because I'm the first person to say that when anytime something that seems like should take 1 or 2 steps, when you add another step, it's not a third as long, or when you add 2 more steps, it's not twice as long. It'll go from being a 4-day project to a 4-week project just by adding a couple steps. So the fact that you guys are sort of acknowledging that and building it in, so there are EAP reminders going out, things that are like, no, how can we make this easier instead of putting more obstacles in the way? How can we open the doors? Because, again, speaking from experience, that there's all kinds of things as a parent in my life, oh, well, I should do this or I could do that. But getting to that point is like, I can't do that. Or, what was that thing? And then a month later, it's like, oh yeah, I was gonna call that and that would have made my life easier. But, it was 11 o'clock at night by the time. So having those emails, having them built in, just kind of spoke to me. There were a couple things beyond just the superintendent's day EAP that felt like that of where there's a proactive effort at making resources available. And that's how we should be doing it. I appreciate that. When somebody come to my house. Anybody else? All right. Thanks, Jim. And we're gonna go right into the warrior renaming discussion, and you're gonna take a break on that.
Yep, so just kind of real briefly, the resolution, it's up on the screen. The resolution, directed the superintendent to form a committee. So we have done that. We have a little committee, we've met to kind of outline a plan, and this will certainly be very fluid. It's very basic. Yeah, I'll go on there. I just moved it on my screen, forgetting that I'm not connected. So.
Was there a copy of that? There wasn't, okay.
So it's in board docs too for people have it on the agenda, but looking really for September and October to finalize the items, get the cost. Carrie's been working on that. We're in a pretty good spot with that. There's some things out there, and that's just kind of vendor related. Can you even use the microphone, Frank?
You're okay.
So there's some cost issues that we're still working on, just getting contractors and vendors to come out to look at like the floor and stuff like that. So we'll have that hopefully done by October. Student government's really gonna take the lead on this here at the high school in combination with the Student Athletic Advisory Council. So we have these two groups that are kind of leadership groups in the building, and they're gonna kind of merge a little bit, have representatives from both. They'll be led by Heath and Mark, obviously, and they're gonna kind of oversee that and meld that together. We want then the community engagement team, in the past, we've kind of picked a topic or two and done something each meeting with them. We want that to be the focus of those meetings and getting the community to help us there. Once we kind of outline that, once we get our student leadership in place, we really want to move into identifying those funding sources, making sure we can pay for things that we need to do some broader community outreach and data collection, which will include surveys, forums, presentations, those type of things. We certainly want to get down into the elementary level and the middle school. The committee has Dennis on it and Rob on it because we wanted to make sure that this is a community development initiative. It'll be led by the high school students. It is their building, and we thought it's actually kind of a nice civic project for them. If we're forced to do this, then we might as well try and make the best of it. And if you look at our student leadership groups, David Meridian type people who were here last year, we really have some outstanding young students who we think would really do a nice job with this and be great voices for us. So we'll have them, we kind of envision them working with the middle school student government folks. We kind of talked about could it be some sort of virtual meeting during the day, exam advisory, during access or those type of things, we can connect them. But also going down and doing presentations to our elementary students, right, getting them involved. But again, having the students kind of lead it, having the students come to the community engagement team and maybe lead some of that forum. So we want to make it as much student involved and student based as possible. Identifying all, or utilizing K through 12 and the broader community as a whole as we move through this. Again, very loosely looking at January, February kind of being a decision time. There's some big things on there. I think everyone kind of thinks of name, but there's the issue of logo or imagery, right? We really only had the spear and the feather. We kind of identified the AP as our most branded symbol, right? Do we want to just stay with that, or do we want to expand based on the nickname with some actual logo, which then leads into a mascot, right? Do you want to have a mascot or not? We don't really have a mascot now, obviously. Is that something we want to look into? Another thing that's come up is the alma mater has the word Warriors in it. It's only in there one time. It was created by a student back in the 60s. We have a student actively here who composes music. So do we use that opportunity to rewrite it? Do we keep it, just replace the name? So things that we want to talk through with people. And then a big one that's come up a few times now is the selling of these items. Everything that we have with the word Warrior on it is our property. And we've talked about, there is definitely a market, I'll put it that way, for people who want this stuff. Carrie has said we get a royalty check from the local drugstores with our merchandise. That check is dramatically gone up lately. People are buying Warrior stuff when it's on the shelves. Mark gets asked routinely questions. Can I have that? Can I buy that? Is that going to be available? So if you think about it, we haven't really gone into detail, but do we turn it over to the Booster Club? Do we do our own fundraiser? But we have a bill that we're going to have to pay for new uniforms and for new gym floors. So do we take the stuff and put it out to the community at large, do some kind of sale and kind of try and get some of that money back? So those are also sort of things we have to make for January, February. And then again, real tentatively see March and June as being implementation time beginning. Remember, we have 2 years to go through this process. So this is really year one. If everything goes as planned, do we want to start and roll out the new name the following September? Are we not going to be ready to do it because of the cost or what have you? And do we want to wait a second year? So those are some of the things we're going to have to really work through in terms of when we're going to make the switch over to whatever the new name is.
But either way, we need to start implementing it, even if it's just budgeting for uniforms, right? So we don't have to buy all new uniforms in 1 year, or do all the hardwood floors in 1 year. So do we start to do that? So those are things we wanted to work through. So it's a very general kind of timeline, but again, we met, committee has elementary, middle school, high school on it. We wanted to start to work through this.
Jim, quick question, can you just refresh my memory? Has the state clarified whether this is going to be aidable or not?
They have Claire, I do want to, I remember
So,
the FAQ
if
has
you're-
some stuff in there.
If you have a building project that you're gonna submit, then you can get building aid on it, but in terms of, aidable for uniforms and, I mean, that's not going to.
So like gym floor, yes, football helmet, no.
Right, yeah, so anything larger, like, you know, we have in our track, you know, that may be able to qualify, so some of your larger things you can submit for projects, but
Okay,
it's, you know, gonna be, my understanding of reading it, it's gonna be normal building needs, so you're not gonna get it back next year, it's gonna be the 15-year
yeah,
payback, but.
thank you.
Jackie,
I just want to say, I think this is really well thought out, and I'm really happy that the students are the forefront of this, because it is their building, and I think it's important to include that and have them
Thank you.
involved.
Yeah, it's not a decision we wanted to make, but it's at the same time kind of exciting to think that our students are really
Correct.
doing it. So it's sort of a silver lining, dark cloud situation.
Agreed. Yes.
So it is, and I know Keith and Mark are very, again, not excited to have changed the name, but excited, okay, this would be something to really bring the community together, the student body together, and so we're trying to put a good face on it.
No, and I think it's important too that we're, you know, not only involving the high school, but that you're trickling down to the elementary school, because I think they want to feel a part of it as well, you know, they have, you know, thoughts about it, and I think they should be heard, so I think that's great that we're doing all the levels.
Thank
Just kind of to echo what Jackie was saying, I think, you know, there's times in life, once we reach adulthood, where things happen that we don't want to happen, or they go a different way than we want it to go. And it's frustrating, and we could be frustrated for a minute, but I think it's great how the administration is leading the way to put the positive spin on it by including the students and teaching them that, you know, sometimes unfortunate things happen, but you have to carry on and something good will come out of it.
Ditto what you guys said, and also, I mean, I, speaking as somebody who's not the most creative, there's a lot of creativity in this school district, so I actually, again, not necessarily where we want to be, but I don't even wanna say faith, because you don't need faith, like, it's all right there, to know that whatever these kids are gonna come up with is gonna be cool, and I think they'll, you know, they'll have that ownership of that, the way that they kind of own the characteristics of a warrior, the way that they spoke to us about that, I think they'll incorporate that. Just on implementation, just so I understand, when we say, is there like a ticking clock for the 2 year? Like, I know there was a 2 year, but does that mean like, is there a day where it's like, okay, that's your 2 year, like August 31, 2025, does that thing actually exist? Or when we say implementation, like that could be Carrie writing a grant to underwrite whatever, like.
You know, the resolution says, and it's up the top of it now, specifically identifying and plan to eliminate all use of such items no later than June 30th, 2021.
Oh, it isn't there. No.
So June 30th of 2025.
Thanks. Literally right in there. Oh, I missed that. And so just to, Ryan, like, we are not voting on anything on this at all, and it's just getting the information out there. And I look forward to what this group is going to come up with. Are we good to move on to these informational pieces in number 22? I believe that goes over to you, Carrie.
Yeah, these are just, you already approved the ability to do these change orders, but we want to make sure we're informing the board. Carrie, I don't know if you wanted to add anything to either of them.
Yeah, these are both related to the overhead doors at the bus garage, with state the credit of 55 Z contract, we put a little bit of a contract allowance in there, so they have a little bit of flexibility with their work. We didn't use it all, so it's just a credit coming back to us, and also a change order for how we did like the safety edges and the photo eye, so both of them are credits, so it's a change order.
And again, nothing we have to vote on, it's everything that's just moving along.
Yeah,
and
just inform.
the infrastructure you guys built in, so that, okay? Any questions on these two items here for Carrie or Jen? Okay, we are at our second public comment period. That is for items that are not on the agenda. I have one blue sheet, it's really exciting, my first blue sheet.
I'm glad to hear it.
All right, so Stephen Hans, come on up.
Okay. Tonight, I'm not here as the CSEA president, as I normally am, but I'm here as a local business owner. In April, I asked Facebook friends to help me name my vending machine business. From that, I had people at Miller Hill, parents from the high school, and people at transportation suggest where I should put my vending machines. In May, I expressed my interest in putting vending machines to Dr. Puccini, to put them in the Miller Hill Faculty Lounge, transportation, and the high school. I was told this was not possible for that specific food and drink needs need to meet national or nutritional guidelines. The USDA put out a pamphlet on smart snacks standard on vending machine schools, in which that states the smart snack standards apply only to locations on school campuses that are accessible to students. So this does not include places like teachers' lounge, although you may choose to vend healthy snacks there too. Another reason I was told is there cannot be any profit made from doing so Another reason was that there cannot be any profit made from doing so by the entity. Does that mean the Pepsi machine and transportation, is there at no profit for Pepsi? Or is it because I'm also an employee of Averill Park? But on that note, there is another employee who Averill Park does business with that he gives a percentage of his business back to the school. The last reason I was told was that such service must be done by competitive bidding. Okay, put out a competitive bidding. I see it every day that students from the high school are crossing Route 43 at probably one of the busiest times of that route to go across to the gas station, grab whatever, and cross back. I've seen at least, I think once or so, at least Dr. Franchini, maybe other district staff, at the end of the driveway looking at this. I'm just trying to look out for the safety of the students, plus requests that I got from, as I said, faculty, transportation, and stuff like that. So.
Thanks, Stephen. And I'll just read questions which are not answered during comment period, but will be addressed by administration. And
I'll follow.
yeah, that's all good. And I will have that to you. Okay. All right, board member reports, and Jess, if you're comfortable, we'll start with you.
I think we covered a lot tonight, and I don't have anything to add. Thank you.
I just wanted to express fear over losing my rookie spot where the, table's open, comment, anything, but no, we covered a lot tonight, and I also have nothing to add except welcome Jess. Thank you.
I am going to, as usual, have nothing to add except for thank you, welcome, and thank you guys for everything that you reported on tonight. It was very comprehensive.
I'm going to be uncharacteristically low on words. Welcome, Jess.
I was not able to attend last meeting to welcome you properly, and I'm so glad that you're here. Great job, everybody, on all the work that you're doing. Looking forward to the start of the year, and just wishing a fun, happy rest of summer to all of our students as they get ready to return. Can't wait to see your smiling faces again.
Good luck to all us parents that are sending our kids to college.
Yeah, getting ready to send my first to college. I'm
so far from that. Yeah, I'll echo what these guys said. It's very comprehensive, as usual, right? It's not, we're not at a loss for information from the cabinet here, so thank you guys. All I want to say, we all get wrapped up in our busy summers, but it's been a busy summer here. You know, I drive by a lot, and there's just a lot going on, and full parking lots. The girls the other day were like, why are you guys all the way back to the parking lot? And there are jobs to be done even when kids aren't here, so that's, you know, when you do a professional varnish job on a wooden boat, right? These are like, most of the work you do, 95% is the prep, and then you get this nice brush and you get it on, and that's like 5 minutes, and it looks gorgeous. But that was like 5 minutes that you spent 2 days, you know, prepping the wood, and it's the same kind of thing here. So, and it's very appreciated, you know, for me as a parent with kids in 2 different schools now, just all the work that's going into making it like safe and nice and productive for them, and it's a positive place. And the only other thing I want to say is in between last meeting and this one, and Jim, stop me if this is not appropriate, but on a personal level, we did attend the funeral of Amelia's first grade teacher, Mrs. Roy, who my husband too has some French Canadian, called her Madame Roy, and she was just exactly the teacher that Amelia needed at the time, and she would be sorely missed. And it's just to say that these are the people who make our children. We like to think, oh, my children, they're not just our children, right? They're the teachers and the bus drivers and the aides and the food service workers make impression on them all the time, and that you remember when you are 75 years old and my first grade teacher, and you know, Amelia's doing well. I will put a lot of that onto the work of Madame Roy in first grade, and then everybody else who's been supportive of her and of Molly. And so just condolences to the family and any other staff that we have that are going through challenging times all the time that you're seeing, and what you're doing is just like beyond important. So I'm gonna leave with that, and sorry, I need to look at that again. I'm really excited for school. You've already got it.
That was very nice.
Do we need a motion? Oh, right, we should probably have a motion to adjourn the meeting, right? Meg and Jack?
All in favor?
All in favor? It passes.
Now that you're making me tear up after the meeting's over,
I
thanks.
just shoot it.